Hello everyone, my name is Jawad Saadi and I'm the founder of Tawasul. Today I'm very excited to host this webinar around the in-one solution from Hexatronic. The in-one solution is quite unique. It's quite exciting to bring in a new product to the market that is quite unique. Unique products are not common these days. Let me go through a little bit of the agenda today. Our agenda, I'm going to start with this introduction. Then we're going to run a video about the in-one solution. I'm going to go through the presentation. Then I'm going to talk about one of our success stories, a project that we have implemented. Then we're going to go through with an expert from Hexatronic, Carl-Uwe. He's going to be with us to answer all the frequently asked questions that we have received from all our resellers and partners. And then if you have any questions, please post your questions and we're going to go into live Q&A. Now I would like to introduce Carl-Uwe. Hello, Carl-Uwe, how are you?
Hello, Jawad, I'm fine.
I'm very excited to have you with us today. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us your role with the in-one product?
Yes, okay. I'm a product manager at Hexatronic, and my responsibility is for copper cables and hybrid fiber optic and power systems as well.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna please stay with us. I'm gonna start going through the presentation and then I'm gonna come back to you with the live Q&A.
In today's traditional installation, separate cables are used for power and fiber. Hexatronic simplifies the installation with our groundbreaking in-one hybrid system. Hexatronic in-one reduces installation time, decreases the number of components, and allows you the opportunity to install it on existing ducts. Deploy in-one by blowing one single cable assembly, which includes both fiber and power. The in-one system includes hybrid ODF, power unit, termination box, and a hybrid cable. The in-one solution can be designed in any topology, whether it is a bus, a star, or a combination of both in a fan-out topology. We installed a surveillance system to our cable factory with the in-one system. The distance is 700 meters, with possible installation up to 2 kilometers. The in-one solution can be deployed for a diversity of applications, such as DAS, distributed antenna system, public Wi-Fi, IP surveillance cameras, 5G, IoT, and many more applications. Tawasul is a certified designer of the in-one hybrid solution and the regional distributor for Hexatronic in the Middle East region. Contact Tawasul so we can help you design your project or become a reseller. For more information about in-one, visit us on www.tawasulnet.com/hexatronic or email us on hexatronic@tawasulnet.com. How can Hexatronic in-one help you?
Okay, let's start with the presentation. Let's jump in immediately. Hexatronic have a very big history since the Ericsson times in producing air-blown cables. What's new with the in-one solution is the cable assembly. The cable assembly, it has in the middle, it has the fiber optic cables with different capacities. We're going to talk about that. And it has the copper cables, all right? In this example, the cable assembly is only 6 millimeters, which allows us to blow it with an air-blown fiber system via ducts, or it can be used in traditional ducts, but you get the best benefit and the best economies as a total solution, saving in a total solution when you're using the air-blown duct with micro-trenching, because as you know, the majority of the saving in any fiber optic project will be in the civil, and this product enables the savings on the civil part. Let's talk a little bit about microducts. There is a huge portfolio with different sizes of microducts, with direct burials or inside cable trays, with thicker jacket or with thinner ones. There's also aerial ducts. You can look at the full portfolio from Hexatronic on the Hexatronic website, or we can send you information about all types of ducts. Let's talk more about the in-one solution. In the in-one solution, what's done at the center point, that we have an AC to DC converter, all right? And we take, and then, of course, we have some fibers in that gives us the data connectivity. And in the hybrid ODF, we combine the power from the AC to DC converter. So we take the DC out and we put it on the to the hybrid ODF, and we take the fiber cable from the cable tray, and then we combine it into this hybrid cable that has both. So now when you're going out of this connection point, the center point, whether you go out immediately in one route or different routes, let's follow this route, you only have one cable. You saw in the previous slide that one of the cables is only 6 millimeters that can blown inside the ducts. You can take this in the upper example to a building side or to a kind of post. You can have any IP device. You can have an IP camera. You can have a public Wi-Fi connection or any kind of an IoT device. Then at this connection point, you drop in some data, you drop in some power, and you go to the next one and to the next one. You can fan out from any point, or you can go in serial. So this is basically what the product is. So let's talk about the building blocks. All right? At the central point that you have seen in the previous slide, we have a rectifier and this hybrid ODF. The rectifier, you have two variations. It depends how much power you want. You have an 480 watt and you have 1000 watt rectifiers. That's 110 volts DC output. Then you take this voltage to the hybrid ODF, and in the hybrid ODF, you combine the DC power and the fiber optic cable into one cable. So naturally, the next step is the hybrid cables. And here we have different varieties of this hybrid cable. The cable assembly could have 12 fibers, could have 12 cores or 24 cores. And the copper cables, you can have 0.75 millimeters or 1.5, which is double the diameter of the cable. The copper cables, you notice that there is always 4 copper, and that's because you need 4 to keep a round cable assembly. But in reality, the 2 reds, the positive, and the 2 blacks, the negatives, are just shorted on each side together. So you have double the diameter on that, but it's easier for the cable assembly to keep the cable round. It's easier when it's round, it's easier to blow and to move inside the ducts in all directions. Okay, then we have the access unit, the in-one access unit. The in-one access unit, we have 2 variants. We have an indoor and we have an outdoor unit. And the outdoor unit also in high temperature places, there is a sun shield that can be installed on top of this. All right. So in the in-one unit, we have the cable assembly coming in. Now we separate the copper from the fiber. The fiber goes to this termination cassette. And then the power goes to a power board where we can connect any future, whether it's fan out or a serial, more connections on the bus. And we take an input, a regulated voltage, into this media switch. This switch, Hexatronic provide a third-party switch, but if you have a specific vendor that you can work with, that is still okay as long as it fits, physically fits inside the boxes provided. So now we have this regulated voltage DC feeding the switch, and we have the fiber feeding the switch. On the output side of the switch, we have Cat6 connections with power over Ethernet. So if you have a device that does not need Ethernet, it just needs, like in the application of DAS or RF over fiber, you don't need any switch. So you can take the fiber and you can feed the device for the RF over fiber or the DAS with regulated DC voltage, or you can have a PoE plus switch that takes around that provides 30 watts of power over Ethernet. In this example, we have a 4-port switch, so you can drive 4 IP devices, whether they're cameras, public Wi-Fi, or any IP device. We can also provide a PoE++ switches that can provide 60 watts of power over Ethernet. And the last part is your part. It's the devices that you want to connect, whether you want to connect public Wi-Fi, IP cameras, any other IP device. So let's actually look at this solution. How many IP devices can we have? Whether it is in serial or in a fan-out topology. So if we take the example of the bigger power supply here on the left, so let's assume that we have fed 1000 watt. Of course, there is some loss in the cable that is calculated, and I'll show you how we calculate that. But let's take example, how much is this 1000 watt? So if you put a normal IP camera, it takes around 18 watts. The switch itself, this switch that we provide, okay, it takes around 5 watts. If you put in a PTZ camera, then it takes more power, that's 45 watts. If you put a PTZ with infrared as well, it can take up to 60 watts. In one of our projects that I'm going to talk about, we use cameras with PTZ and IR, and they're taking 60 watts. And we have the PoE++ taking care of that. So we have actually used this high power consumption. A public Wi-Fi access point is around 13 watts, the models that we looked at. IoT sensors can be a fraction of a watt. I don't think of a sensor that could take more than 2 watts. So actually 1000 watt with a little bit loss on the cable, you can connect a lot of devices on this route. And I wanted to show example of the wattage. All right. This is the calculation tool. I'm not going to go into details of the calculation tool, but I can show you how it's looking like. This is a starting point. So what this is saying that on top of the link, we put the distance. So this is 200 meters until the first access point. This is how much load do we have here. Then we're fanning out in 3 different directions. In this directions, we have 100 meters, and there is a 30 watt load. Then we go 50 meters in this direction. We go 75 meters in this direction, 60 meters in this direction, and here you have the loads 15, 20, and 15. In this direction, we have 200 meters, sorry. We have no load here. This is just a split point, so we have not connected any devices. And then we're not using this route. We're using this route, another 200 meters, another 300 meters, and one last stretch of 300 meters with different loads. We're not using this branch in this example and here. So here you can see that this is how you design. And if you look at each segment 0 to 1, I can look here on the left and I can see the resistance in ohms of that specific segment. So this is the full calculation. So in the calculation tool, you can pick an option of serial or fan out, and this is how you do the calculations. All right. So many of you have, if you're listening to this, you have implemented projects, and you know that the civil work is the bigger part of the project, whether it's a public Wi-Fi, DAS, or any IP device, CCTV camera. So in a traditional solution, what do you have? You have a fiber cable, of course, to feed in the data. You have the fiber duct and the civil work, whether it's a traditional implementation or an overblown implementation. You have ODFs and you have FTU at the endpoint. If you need IP, then you must have some kind of switches. The switches usually needs AC power. They come with their AC to DC converter, but then you have to reach that converter with AC power. And the big part then is the connecting AC cables to remote sites. As you know, AC cables could be large in diameters. If you want to put them underground, you need some armoring, you need ducts, you need bigger ducts, you need circuit breakers, you need distribution panels, and then at the end point, you need AC to DC converters. So what changes when you put in the in-one solution? Instead of the fiber cable, you use the hybrid cable we talked about. You still need the fiber duct, civil work, whether it's traditional civil work or micro-trenching and air-blown. Instead of the ODF, we're using hybrid ODF, but this is a similar cost. FTUs, we're using the cassettes in the access point. And the switches are integrated into our access switches. What you do not need is the very expensive AC cable. You don't need the civil work for the AC. You don't need any AC circuit breakers. And you don't need any AC to DC converter, because the AC DC is happening in the beginning of the in-one solution, and sorry, at the terminal end, you only need voltage regulators. So after you remove all of that, this is what you need in the in-one solution. I don't think I need to convince you with the savings. I mean, it's different from country to a country. Countries with more expensive labor cost, the civil work could be up to 80% of the total project. In countries with less labor cost, it's less than that, 65, 70% and this is conservative. So if you need two civil networks, one for the fiber and one for the electric, and we're taking one out, I mean, it's not hard to calculate how much saving you can have. We claim that you can achieve 50% savings, and with a project that we have already implemented, the pilot project that is achieved. And not only that, it's a much faster installation. So what can we use the in-one for? Again, that's up to you to figure out. Any IP device, or not even, I mean, in RF over fiber, it's not even IP. Wherever you want to connect remote devices that needs power and data connectivity, then in-one can serve you. You can also install it. You don't have to install it on poles. You can install it in manholes. There has been applications for speed cameras. They're always remote, so you can feed the power and the fiber, the data connectivity through the in-one cable. There is these smart trash cans with IoT sensors, or public Wi-Fi coverage, smart bus station signs, So there are many, the applications are endless for the in-one solution. This is to talk more about the RF over fiber and the DAS. For the people that are working with these solutions, I think you can see immediately the application. This is a little bit peak of the future. These are not pictures of actual products, but in the pipeline, hopefully we see the N1 in a tactical cable, whether it's used for military application or civil application, doesn't matter. But to have these quick connectors and drum cable that you can immediately pull a cable and install a camera for a temporary situation, whether it's a temporary location for a festival or it's an emergency case that you need to install cameras or to have radio or Wi-Fi coverage. This is in brief the presentation. Now I'm going to move to the next step and talk about the reference project that we implemented. Okay, let's talk about our customer reference. Ayla. Ayla is a project on the Red Sea in the city of Aqaba. If I can, this is a picture of the Gulf of Aqaba. And if you follow the mouse, this is the perimeter of the project. It's the colored part. What this project is about, as you know, the coast of Aqaba for Jordan is extremely limited. So this is, they only had a coastal entry of 350 meters. So what they have done, they have opened this and they have created these lagoons, which is 3 levels of lagoons. They pump water from the sea to the top lagoon. It goes to the middle one, and then it goes to the sea level. This whole project is 4.4 million square meters. The perimeter length of the project is 8 kilometers. The project consists of 2 golf courses. There will be hotels, residential areas, many other facilities, recreational. There is a souk area and a public area with shopping and restaurants. And you can go to their website, www.ayla.com.jo, to learn more about the project. Okay, so Ayla needed, this is the AutoCAD drawing of the project. So this is, on this side is the water entry. This is the perimeter. And they needed to put in cameras all over the perimeter for the security. Naturally, they didn't have power on the outer wall of the project. So here they had 2 options. One option is to put AC cable for the whole 8 kilometers, or to use the N1 solution. So naturally, after we offered them the N1, they opted out. They decided to use the N1, and the project now is completely commissioned, and everything is working in order. And we have a customer, and they promised us that they're going to provide us with a testimonial about their satisfaction with the project. This is the technical design of the project. I'm not going to go into the details, but this is, here you see where we have the fiber roots. They are clustered into groups. They are called SEH. So you have from SEH 1 to, I don't know which is the largest number. I can see 36 here. I'm not so familiar with the design myself, but then you have the cameras that are connected. And here on every one of these segments, you can see the distance, and you can see the number of connections, the number of cameras that are connected. So, before we implemented the Ayla project, There is another project that we implemented, and it was for a different customer, very similar to Ayla in terms of size and kind of facility. I'm not going to mention their name because we haven't asked for their consent to mention them in this presentation, but Ayla have already consented. We have actually implemented very similar security, perimeter security solution, but in this case, this is all the devices that we have connected. We needed to have a big power source. They needed also to have UPS on that. Then there was a lot of outdoor distribution panels and a lot of the outdoor access panels and a lot of AC cables. This is the actual pictures of the implementation. You can see how much ducting you need for the fiber and for the power cables. This is the external distribution panels to connect the connection panels. So this is only for the AC. And here on the right side, you see the access panel. There is the switch that we used. Then you need an AC to DC converter. This is the AC connection. This is how it looks when it is closed. And then these are the routes for the Cat6 cables that go to the cameras. So each one of these cabinets is connected to the route. This is not connected because this was the sample that we got the approval on. But in the previous picture, these are actual installations. All right. So it's immediately, if we, sorry for flipping through the slides, immediately you can see how much civil work you need when you're putting actual AC cable and distribution panels that you don't need with the in-one solution. This is where the in-one was connected. This is the Ayla project. This is the actual size of the outdoor access in-one access unit. This is how neat is the connection. This is how it looks from the inside. This is where the hybrid cables are coming. The copper cable, the power cable, is terminated on the power board, and the fiber cable is going through the cassette. Then you feed the fiber to the switch, and you feed the power to the switch. And here we have, as I can see, probably 1, 2, 3 cameras that is connected to this box. So there is 3 PoE outputs. So there are 2 cameras that are connected to this pole, and probably there is a 3rd camera connected somewhere else. So this is all you need. This is the input here. All you need is this 6 millimeter, depending, there are 2 different diameters of the cable, depending on which size you use, but this is the case we have. Hopefully soon that we're going to shoot an interview with the customer and they talk about the satisfaction with their project. Thank you so much, and back to the we have received many questions already, and we have actually received questions before we started the webinar. So let's move to Carl Uwe and get some of these questions answered. I hope this presentation was useful to you and that you have seen, you know more now about the product, and you have seen about our successful project at Ayla. Now let's move to our expert, Carl Uwe Andersson. And Carl Uwe, there is a few questions that have came up. I would like to go through them one by one. Is the in-one solution, does it need to be only installed in a serial topology, or you can have it in a star or a fan-out topology?
Yes, it could be used for several topologies, of course. It's a single star or a ring daisy chains and in combined versions as well.
All right. So the customers can actually implement to whatever physically is better for them. So there is no limitation from your end in regard of topology. They follow the easiest route in terms of civil work.
Yeah, that's our main goal, to make it as simple as possible to install it and have different versions of connected it and spread it out in the network.
No, that's quite flexible. But what is the second question that we received many times? What is the distance limitation?
The distance is in combined of length and the power. So we would say about 1 kilometer, 200 watts. And if you extend it to 2 kilometer, will be 100 watts for a single point of load. But if you go shorter, you could also data chain several smaller power loads, of course, and then you need to calculate it a bit more in detail.
So then we're dealing with a power budget. I mean, the input power, we can use it either with less power on longer distances or more devices and more power for shorter distances. But I mean, I mentioned a little bit in my presentation about the calculation tool. Can you explain it a little bit further?
It is a calculation tool. When you put in the distances you have between different termination points and the cable type and the power load for each termination box. And then you could see what is the margin that you have left then. And you could try to extend it and see what's happening. It's basically an Excel sheet with some programs behind it that calculate what you put in there. So you could see it real yourself,
Okay.
test
Yeah.
it.
And I mean, is there tolerances, safety factors already built in the tool, or when we're configuring using the tool, we should put in our own safety factors and tolerances?
So I didn't get your questions there.
No, I mean, should we, if we have a load, for example, a camera with 20 watts, shall we increase the input to like 22 or 23 just to be on the safe side? Or it is safe just to put in the actual numbers and you get the right values?
Yeah, I think it is better that you have put in some extra so you have some safe margins so you could extend it afterwards also. That makes sense, yes.
Oh, absolutely. One thing, we work a lot with customers in very hot climates, and there is a concern, I mean, in the devices, when you put it outdoor, you put it on poles, can it take the high temperature?
Yeah, I know there is some locations that have high temperature, and we have actually tested in our lab there at 60 degrees Celsius with a power load on it, and it works well. So it shouldn't be any problem unless you have even more heat. Of course, we couldn't guarantee if it's several weeks of that heat. It could be perhaps a reduced power budget then, but it's still ongoing there and real life, yeah.
Yeah, and on the Ayla project that we discussed, Ayla is in Aqaba on the Red Sea, so it's quite a hot climate. And you have designed an extra shield that sits on top of the box. How much effect do you think this shield can do?
Oh, it's actually taking away the sun heat, and then it's some distance between the shield and the box, so it should reduce it a lot. Of course, I haven't exactly values of the reduction, but I could certainly it works well. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to mention to all the viewers, when we won this project in Aqaba, Carl Uwe, he considered to put this extra shield, which is, according to the specs, it wasn't necessarily needed, but as an extra precaution. But this is a very good example how we at Tawasul and Hexatronic are working together. And if there is a need for an adjustment on the product due to temperature in this case, or any other factor, that they were extremely responsive in responding to us. So we thank you for that, and the summer is coming soon. We're both gonna have accurate measurements on the heat inside these devices. And the last and fifth questions that I have so far, I'm gonna combine different questions that came in different flavors. Everybody, not everybody, but we receive different questions. People, they say, can we have more power? Can we have longer distances? What are your future plans? Are you considering, I understand you cannot commit, but what is, if you take us into your thinking process, do you have any ideas on how you can increase the distances or increase the power to increase the distances or the diameter of the cable? This was a good insight from the expert.
We have several different future plans actually that we are considering now. And one of them is to higher up the voltage. Then it could go much more longer. But we need to make certain changes then in the product. And then we've got about 400 volt DC. And then it could extend it much more. But then it's a bit other product, and it's in our timeline to be maybe end of this year and next year.
Any ideas to increase the diameter of the copper inside the cable assembly?
The cable assembly will be a bit different than for this higher voltage. It will be some more insulation on it.
Ah, okay. All right. So we're going to stay tuned and wait anxiously to any new products. I mentioned that there is also a chance for a more rigidized, tactical kind of cable. No commitment again, but we hope that we get that product in the market as well. Thank you very much for joining us from the Hexatronics factory in Hudiksvall. And I hope that you stay tuned with us if you have the time. In case we have more live questions, I'm going to come back to you. Thank you, Karl-Ove.
All right. It seems that we're been having some delay issues. We hope that we're trying to fix some of the issues. There is so much demand on Zoom. So with the webinar that we had last week, we had some issues, and they informed us that due to the big demand that they're having, that there is an issue in handling that. There is probably also some technical issue. I can see, from what I can see, the performance is a little bit now. We're trying to do behind the scenes some fixes. So let's go back to our topic, and I want to see if we have more questions. Karl-Ove is still with us. In conclusion, this product, why we're excited, very much excited about, because it's an easy sell. Why? Because it's a high quality product and it generates saving on the civil infrastructure. So if you are a system integrator and you take a turnkey project, your price as a total solution for the total project will be far more competitive, because you make savings on the civil work versus the other competitors will have to do civil works. They have to do two different networks, one for the data connectivity and one for the power. So for you, if you are a system integrator, you need to adopt this product because it will make you more competitive in your own business. Because it makes a saving on another item, and you're providing a product that is far more superior, far more flexible, and it produces a saving on the civil work. And if I show this picture, I think it will be very clear which product you want to install. The big cable is what we implemented in our traditional projects, the first project. As we told you, Ayla and the other projects were very similar in terms of size and number of cameras. And we can see the cost difference that was huge. We're talking a factor of probably 40% is safe to say, because with these big cables, I mean, no matter how you calculate, the in-one solution is far more effective solution and much less on the infrastructure. So allow me a couple of seconds to look at what more Q&As do we have. Let me pull the screen to this side. Okay, we have quite a few questions. So in the meanwhile, let me bring in Carl Uwe and see that he's connected. Hello, Carl Uwe, are you with us?
Hello, Javad. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm happy to see you. We have quite a few questions. Let me read them through and we take them together.
Yeah.
What is the go-to-market strategy for the markets like in Africa? Do we have a template proposal and case studies documentation to ease our selling process? Okay. All right. I can start with that because this is a tawasul issue. We have our team, our pre-sales team, have been certified by Hexatronic for design. So the best thing to do is to send us a requirement of a project. We'll help you with the design. We'll help you with the comparison. So this is something, I think the best thing to do is to start communicating with your channel manager, with any of our pre-sales support team in Tawasul. They look at the specs. Yes, we have sample proposals. We can share with you the design tool. We can give you more sales training. We can help you with the proposals. So I think this is the best way to start. The best way to start is to share with us the leads, and we start helping you with that. Carl Uwe, do you want to add anything on this question?
No, I think it's best that you take the first questions there, Javad. It's extremely good that you have a reference project, perhaps similar to the size that they requested. They could easily compare it.
Yes. Another question, does the in-one come in a direct burial option? Yes. The cable itself doesn't change, but I'll let Carl Uwe answer that. If we have the expert, we should let the expert speak. So can you explain to us, Carl Uwe, about the different ducts that we have for direct burial and for different installations?
Yes, we have a lot of variety of ducts there, and it's really depending on the length that you want to install it, and also, of course, the soil and the ground. If it's very rocky, you need to perhaps have a more stable duct than another. But it's basically, there is a duct outside, and then you pull in this hybrid cable. That's the principle of it.
Yeah, if you're, this is to the person that have asked the question, if you're familiar with the Hexatronic air-blown fiber and the duct system, the whole concept is that they have removed all the armoring from the cable to the duct. And I'll ask one of my colleagues to share with you more information. So you actually, the change of terrain, you change the duct, you don't change the cable because the protection is in the duct. So if you want to put the duct under a street, there is a special duct for that. If you want to put it on a cable tray or indoor, there is a special duct for that. Even underwater, there is a special duct for that. And aerial, there is a special duct for that. So this is the flexibility of the solution. So the in-one and these cables can work in any of these environments. Let's go to the next question. If we have a project and we need someone to design it based on the in-one solution, can you help us with that in regards of the fiber design and power calculation? Absolutely. As mentioned, our pre-sales support team is certified by Hexatronic, and Karl-Ove can probably now speak a little bit about the design tool. So please, yes, feel free. Send us the requirement, we'll help you with the design. Karl-Ove, can you speak a little bit more about the design tool that we have?
Yeah, the design tool is basically that you map your application there. If you have the distance to your termination points, you put them in there, and you put also in the load that you have at different points. And if it is cameras or Wi-Fi points, you probably know the power consumption of it. And you put that together in each location, and then you calculate and see what's coming out there. And you could change, of course, then the cable type and also the input power. There is some difference there from that Javado earlier mentioned about 480 watts and 1000 watts in power feeding.
Yeah, and this design tool we can share with you. Any of you as system integrators that would like to partner up with Tawasul and becomes a Hexatronic reseller in your market, in your area, we can go through that discussion, and then you can have access to the sales training and to the design tool itself. One more question. What is the required preventive maintenance for the DC rectifiers and other components in the in-one cabinet? Karl-Ove, I take that to you, please.
Okay. The question was about the internal components in the termination box?
No, does the customer or the user, do they need to do any kind of a preventive maintenance to the whole solution, let's say, and then the specific question says about the DC rectifier. Is there a maintenance procedure or a preventive maintenance procedure for those DC rectifiers in specific and to the total solution?
The rectifiers that we have used is basically industrial standards, and I haven't seen any of, there shouldn't be any, what do you call it, surveys on them. Basically that they need to be dust-free, of course, the location for the power feeding. And internal, the termination box is closed, so it shouldn't be any problem there either.
Yeah, thank you so much. Then let's move to the next question. We need to pull demand. I'm not sure I understand that, but if I understand that we need to create pull from the market. If that is the question, I think we need, in cooperation with you locally, to create seminars. Now with the current circumstances, maybe that is a little bit hard, but we can do webinars. If you want us to do a webinar specifically to your market, like this one, hopefully without some of the technical glitches that we had, we can help you do that. So please contact your account manager, the channel manager, or any of our pre-sales team, and we can help you with that. If I misunderstood your question, please post it again, and I'll try to take another attempt at it. We have two more questions, yes. The question that we have here, can we have a bigger power source than the 1000 watt to reach more distances? And I can tell you, Karl-Ove, when we did the seminar a couple of months ago in Amman, and we had huge turnout from most key customers in Jordan. It was military, security, governments, universities, operators, everybody have attended, and we got great interest. And this question came over and over again. How can we achieve bigger distances by having bigger rectifiers, higher voltage, bigger diameter of cable? And we have spoken to you. You have said that you have plans. So share with us what you can share, Karl-Ove. it's good that we hear the news from the source.
Okay, without any promising. Well, we have looked into step up in voltage to about 400 volt DC. So we're in the middle of the process of designing and thinking and checking out the possibilities. But that, of course, increased the power distance a lot to several kilowatts. And yeah, I need to come back to you later on with the actual figures on it. So it's not immediately in the near time.
Yeah, one thing I need to tell you, I mean, you always, when we have the vendor and we have product managers, they are extremely conservative in their answers. But one thing that I can tell you, that Hexatronic have been extremely responsive to market demands. So if you have a project that require higher distances, I think let's have that discussion, because there is some alternations that can be done in the short term to productify something that is in the standard portfolio. Of course, the vendor Hexatronic need to calculate the bigger demand and how much volume to add a product. But for example, when we did our pilot, the project in Ayla in Aqaba, because of the higher temperatures, although it was meeting the specs, we have discussed that with the design team and with Carl Uwe in specific, and they have introduced a special shield that is put on top of the cabinet and creates, it stops the direct sunlight from hitting the cabinet itself, and it creates an air barrier in the middle, a moving air barrier that could probably decrease the temperature on the cabinet by maybe around 10 degrees. So although this wasn't needed according to the specs, it was a precautionary measure, and they have responded to that. And by the time we were bidding to the delivery time, which was like, if I remember right, it was about a couple of months, they have actually designed this addition, and it was delivered with the main project. So hopefully, feed us with your input. That is the best way that we put demand on Hexatronic. And from our experience with them, they have been extremely responsive in the past. The next question, and I see more questions coming in. The more the merrier, that is good. Keep them coming. Has protection against water penetration been considered? Carl Uwe.
No, not actually. With this cable that we have designed, is basically to have on soil and ground, not in seawater for the moment, but we have other cable types that could be used for that situations, more of a submarine types that is combined for that reason. So we need to change the cable then if we go into sea, and change over to this dry cable on ground.
Yeah, but if we, this is for a submerged cable under sea. But I mean, in a typical installation, like we had the one in Ayla or the other projects that you're having up here in Sweden, I mean, the part of the cable is exposed to the outside, inside the ducts, and the cabinets are outside. So has the water, is it watertight from that sense?
Yes, of course, it's watertight. It's radial watertight. Of course.
Yeah. So is that water tightness to be specific? Because the person that's asking is asking about the cable itself. So is the protection in the duct and in the cabinets, or is it also in the cable as well?
The cable for actual now today is not completely water longitudinal tight as he probably thinking about, but it's easily down. It's easily down if it's necessary.
Okay. Thank you. So for a typical installation where you can have it outdoor and put in the complete solution, it is extremely adequate. In the typical installation anyway, don't keep the cable exposed. So it has to be protected. If there is any moisture of some water that leaks into that, which shouldn't happen, but if it happens, so I think there is enough tightness, water tightness on the cable itself. If we haven't, Munir, if we haven't answered the question, please post it again. Let's go to the next question. Can the cable be used without the duct at all? The answer, I would answer that, and I'll leave Karl-Ove to comment. Yeah, the cable works 100% without the duct. But where is it installed? If you have an indoor installation, you don't need the ducts at all. But the duct is only to help you pull the cable and to protect the cable if the environment is not suitable for that cable. Do you want to add anything, Karl-Ove?
Yeah, maybe. This cable is really neat and thin. So for mechanical protection, I would like to add some protection if I go mounted on a wall. Please cover it with some outer covering so it's not damaged by people there. So it has a jacket, of course, so it's safe in that kind. But there is also another version for indoor flame retardant. If there is a requirement of that, we have a version with the flame retardant, so you could go inside with the safe conditions.
Yeah, that's good. So if in an indoor, if you want some fire resistant, we have that cable as well. You have that cable as well. All right, let's move to the next question. Are there different input sources? Power capabilities, I think it says. Yes, in the standard product, we have the 400 watt and we have the 1000 watt. And that's literally an AC to DC converter. Anything to add, Karl-Ove?
No, that's correct for a moment, yes.
Okay. The next question, what are the examples of output products we can connect? Very good questions. Let me split the answer, and I'll take the first attempt and ask Karl-Ove to comment with any additions. There is two types of products that you can connect. There is IP products, so anything that connects to PoE, a Cat6, where you put, as you saw in the presentation, that you connect the power and fiber to a IP switch, and then you connect the devices with PoE. So anything that works on PoE. We use the example, the project we implemented for cameras. You can have IP telephones. If you want to put an emergency phone on a street, you can have any IP device, you name it. There is no limitation from that sense. The in-one solution is simply transparent to the whole devices. It doesn't see the devices. It doesn't see if the device is a public Wi-Fi access point or an IP camera or a telephone or any other IP device. It could be an industrial device that we're not aware of. A great interest that we have received from Iraq, actually, for the oil companies, and it's not only cameras. They have all kinds of sensors that work over IP, and they need to connect that. So this is the first half of the question. The second half of the answer, sorry, is the devices that do not need IP. One example is RF over fiber. What RF over fiber is that you can have the radio base station in one place and the antenna is in another place. And then instead of the typical that you connect the antenna directly to the radio, you know, with a coaxial cable, typically, you can put an RF to fiber converter on one side and fiber to RF again at the antenna side. All right, and this is something that is industry standard. This is something that is used all over the place. The limitation with the existing solution that the end device at the antenna end, which converts fiber to radio to RF again, will need some DC power. So today, if you install that, you need to have local DC power there. With the N1, you can deliver the DC power to that device. And here you don't need a switch. This is not IP. This is its own technology. Same thing with DAS. I'm not an expert on DAS. Maybe Karl-Ove can help. So what you can use, the applications, is absolutely unlimited. The devices could be anything, whether they are IP devices or non-IP devices. If you need data connectivity and power for any device, you can use that. And as we saw in the presentation, and I'm not sure how well that went through, it was the time when we had the limited bandwidth and it was a little bit choppy, that let's consider that you have 1,000-watt power supply. So we have the two variants. And then you're connected loads to that. You're connecting different devices. And a normal access point is around 20 watt. A camera is around 20 watt as well. A camera with PDZ and IR could go up maximum to 60 watt. So 1,000 watts can connect lots of devices on one route, and you can have different links and different routes, as many as you want. So thanks for the question. There are many different applications, and if you are in doubt, again, contact our account managers and our pre-sales engineers, and they will help you with that. But Karl-Ove, please, regarding the DAS, especially in 5G, can you speak a little bit more about that?
We have discussed quite much with Ericsson and our operators in Sweden, and for micro-based stations, this will very well work with this amount of power. This micro-based stations is typically about 100 watts, 110, and that fits in one solution. So yeah, it's a new way to thinking of building network for operators, that the site cost isn't so much, and instead of cluttering a lot of in one site, you could easily spread it out in a wider network.
Yeah. So any of you guys who are working with operators, I think you need to keep your eye on two things. Their 5G deployments, because this will add value for them and a saving in the implementation, but also operators, they use a lot public Wi-Fi for 4G and 4G offloading. And we have spoken to a couple of operators and they are very interested in that, because they can actually put the rectifiers in some of their street cabinets, and then they can use that to connect their public Wi-Fi access points without having to have local power at each access point. All right, so we have a last question, unless we get more questions. Is there any security measures on the cabinets? Are they lockable by keys? Can we monitor the device's status inside the cabinets? Yes, we have received this requirement. We have passed this to Hexatronic, and there will be in the future lockable cabinets. We're also considering inputting sensors that gives an alarm, and that is something that we will be adding as Tawasul, to add some kind of sensors, temperature sensors inside the cabinets, and if the cabinet have been tampered with or opened. Karl-Ove, how soon do you think we can get locks on the cabinets?
Yeah, I contact some suppliers, and we'll see what they come up with. And I haven't actually now today, but we work with it. I could mention a bit more about the sensors in like that. And we have another customer that also required that, and we're now preparing an internal extra mounting board inside the cabinet, so you could put in some for your local, what you call it, sensors, if they are just on and off, or you could also power feed out for locking doors and like that. And that could be another typical installation that is combined with cameras.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you so much, Karl-Ove. again, please feed us with market requirements. Hexatronic is a very progressive company and they have been responsive. So even if things you don't think that can be doable, if you feed it to us and there is enough demand in the market, we can put the demand on Hexatronic and see how they respond. We just got a new question, Carl Uwe, and it's from our existing customer that had the installation. Can we add locks to the existing cabinets?
Yeah, that's what we are thinking about. Reusing the same cabinet, but change the screw to another thing that is lockable. Yeah.
All right. So I'll ask one of our team to give you a response, Firas, regarding this question. We'll follow it up with Hexatronic. So I don't see any more questions. I would like to thank everybody for your attendance. We have a recorded session. I'm not sure about the quality of that, especially in the part of the presentation. We have checked that. Please stay in touch with your contact at Tawasul to get access to the recorded session. We will run this session again. There are many people that contacted us and they said they could not attend at this time. So we will run this session again, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. It seems that I can see from the number of attendance here, we had amazing attendance, really, from many partners and customers around the region. So thank you all for attending. Unfortunately, the circumstances gives more time to people to attend webinars, but it's good that we take advantage of that and we communicate with you directly. We're gonna send you a survey. Please help us. We do read the survey and we take it seriously, so please answer the survey, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or to contact anyone else from the Tawasul team. So thank you so much. Thank you for your attendance and have a nice day and stay safe and take care of your families. Okay, I have control to start the webinar, but not to stop it. Here, hidden behind my mic.